What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to give you my 1 year review on the G80 M3. What the So yes, we've owned this G80 M3 for over a year now, and our loyal fans will know and have seen the build from the beginning. If you are new to the channel, I'll leave a link up there for you guys to go watch this build from start to now. So with this car being over 12 months old, you guys probably know the facts from factory: 503 brake horsepower in competition form. This is the rear wheel drive model, as we spec that from the beginning because the X-Drives weren't available as first release. With 650 Newton meters, it's not a slouch. It gets to 60 in under 4 seconds in completely standard form with 155 mile an hour top speed. So we actually did a lot of testing on this vehicle from the very start when the car was completely stock. It ran a quarter mile in an 11.8. It did 100 to 200 in 8 seconds flat. But obviously we've done a lot of work since then. I think one of the first modifications we made to the car was the lowering springs. We've reduced the ride height with the I-back lowering springs, and on the M3 model that is just a set of front pair of springs that lower it about 25 to 30 mil, and I think the car just looks perfect in that stance. Yes, you can get lower springs and you can get coilovers, but the way it handles and the way it looks, I think best suits the way I drive and what I use the car for. So one of the major changes has been the color change on the car. Yes, it is wrapped in a midnight purple. I think it looks absolutely amazing. The car is originally in sapphire black, and we did spec it like that. As I've said before, this is a car that I've spec'd from scratch, and every modification that we've done has been there to enhance the looks or the performance of the car. One of my favourite modifications has to be the NV Forge NVF03Cs. They are finished in a champagne gold and really set off the colour, especially with the purple. I think purple is the new black. So one of the major drawbacks from factory is this stock exhaust system. It sounds absolutely timid and has no sort of M character, and this is where Scorpion Exhaust came in with their full exhaust system and carbon fibre tips that is mated to our NVM shielded downpipes, which we actually developed in-house from a 3D scan of the original part before we manufactured it in mass. So yes, it's been over a year since the G80 M3 has come out. What do you guys think of the grille? Obviously our boys at Zagaro supplied us with this beautiful carbon fibre grille, and I think that makes the front end just that much more aggressive. And that sits directly in front of our intake induction system. This allows fresh air to get straight into the turbochargers via the air filters and allows for maximum power when you need it. We did cover a lot of the specification on my collection video. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a link up there for you guys to watch that as well. But I think we need to go for a drive so I can tell you and express to you what it feels like to own a G80 M3. So this car, although being 4-door and a saloon, I haven't really used it as a saloon as much because I do have another car as a daily. So in terms of mileage, we haven't really covered that much miles, kind of just under 8,000 miles in over 12 months of ownership. But it's given me a chance to get used to the car in stock form and with the modifications as we've gone by. This M3 is such a capable car. It's so manageable through corners and it's so responsive. Even with the electronic steering rack, you can still feel where the front end is, and it's got a really nice balance as well for the tail. Obviously this car is a lot heavier than the previous model. I think it's about 220 kilos more than the F80 generation, but it is a lot quicker and it's got more torque, and that does make up for it. So as I've covered before, this car is up to about stage 2 plus. That means we have the meth integration added to the car to reduce the charge temperatures as well as reduce any sort of knock produced at this sort of boost levels. It has done dramatic quarter mile times at 10.6 at 134 mile an hour. And 100 to 200 in 5.4 seconds. And now that goes to show the capabilities of simple bolt-ons with this vehicle itself. It was very time consuming working and developing on this car, especially when the ECU had to be sent off for unlocking, but it allows us to program the ECU via the OLDBURY port, which means back-to-back calibrations, especially on the dyno, off the dyno, at track, etc. Now I think the M3 is happiest on a racetrack, especially with almost 700 brake horsepower, and this car makes back-to-back 700 brake horsepower with MEF injection. We did do a lot of development work on race fuel, but what we found was the low pressure fuel pump did struggle to provide enough fuel with kind of anything more than 30% of ethanol. So it's a great car to drive around town. Obviously, I've spoken about the carbon buckets before. They are very difficult to get in and out of if you're doing short journeys, but on a long journey, once you're in, it holds you well and it's not too uncomfortable, apart from that little carbon piece at the front. So as I mentioned before, the IBAC springs on this vehicle is perfect for everyday use and track use, even through the country roads. It handles the bumps really well, and that's thanks to the electronic adjustable shock absorbers. In comfort mode, it's nice and supple, and it's always been the greatest thing about an M car is having it turn from Jekyll to Hyde in an instant, and that's thanks to these M1 and M2 buttons. Without these, I don't think I would have enjoyed the vehicle as much, especially when going through towns to cities to urban country lanes. So yes, the G80 M3 is a premium and it's more expensive, but as with anything these days, prices are rising due to the cost of supply, due to the cost of materials, so it's inevitable for cars to get more and more expensive. At this point, I think at this price range, there isn't much else you can get. For a bit more, you could jump into something a lot quicker, and for a bit less, you are jumping into something a lot slower. But again, like I said, with our tuning and our modifications, I think this car makes it almost, actually, it does make it a supercar killer. I do find myself not using the creature comforts as much. The heated steering wheel, it hasn't really been that cold for me to use. The heads-up display I hardly look at, and also the reverse camera is something that I never use on a daily basis. But again, these are good things to have, and it helps the resale value, so that's why they were optioned. So a lot of people have commented about the X-Drive version. Yes, the X-Drive version is a lot quicker off the mark, and it wasn't available at the time of ordering. For us to get a head start on development on a brand new platform, we have to get what's available, and the S58 engine G80 M3 with rear wheel drive was the only thing available for us to get. A lot of development work went into it. Now moving on to our development for stage 3, we might be going with a full billet intake manifold, and we have some hybrid turbochargers ready. We just need to fit them, get them tested and calibrated accordingly. So there are a lot of positives and negatives to owning a G80 M3, but in stock form there will be. No manufacturer is going to build a car to have a real petrol head once. And with the EU legislations and emission regulations, it is becoming a more quieter, comfortable car in the long run. And I think the way this car sits and performs now is how it should have come out from the factory. But leave a comment below as to what you guys think of the NVM G80 M3. So even with this power and torque, it's still capable, still controllable, and that's thanks to the 10-way drift control or traction control system, and also the stock MDM system allows you to have a bit of fun without bending it round a lamppost. Now obviously after 12 months of ownership, I'm going to compare it to my last vehicle, that being the M2 N55. That was about 620 brake horsepower and about 720 newton meters of torque. It was smaller, it was lighter, it was more agile. But do I regret selling it and moving into a G80? I don't think so. This car has so much more potential and it has more usability. When I say usability, on a motorway run, it's nice and comfortable. Put it in comfort mode, you get good miles to the gallon, and we have tuned it specifically for better fuel efficiency at motorway speeds as well. Again, a lot of the development that we did isn't just about peak power, and people get it twisted sometimes and think, well, X, Y, and Z made 750, you only made 720. Well, the reason being is because ours is more reliable, it's more consistent, and obviously looking at data logs, hours on ends is what gives us the ability to change the calibrations. Now with the ability to remote tune as well, we can now tune your G80 via MHD or boot mod. We have our own tuning module as well that we can send out to you, and this will give you access to NVM tuning anywhere in the world. So make sure you guys click the link below, because I'll leave all the details there for that. I do think if I didn't option these carbon buckets, I would have used the car on a more regular basis, popping to the shops, doing the school run, etc. But I think I've enjoyed it in its elements, and that's using it at the weekend, use it on track, going on a road trip with it has been the most enjoyable thing about owning this G80 M3. I'm quite surprised how the stock suspension and brakes have held up to this power, and I think we will at some point upgrade the brake disc and pads all round, and maybe stick on a coilover system to be a bit more track orientated and enjoy it more at the pinnacle of the elements of a corner, a turn and a crest. That has to be the best thing about this car, the way it sounds now. With the modifications done to the vehicle, it sounds like an M car should. And from factory, yes, the primary cats, the secondary cats, and the GPF sensors really mute that lovely S58 engine. We spent so much time on this car recently with the ZF8 Gen 3 gearbox tuning, and that's allowed us to lift the stock torque limiters, increase the shift speed, and also increase that top end speed limit. Now we will cover that all in another video when we go high speed testing in this very car. In comfort mode, the gearbox is so much more engaging. Obviously we've set the shift pattern almost OEM, but held it on longer, because what we found from factory was it loves to get into 8th gear at 35-40 mile an hour, which is not adequate, and you end up slipping the little micro clutches when you're trying to overtake someone, etc. But obviously in Sport Plus, the car is a completely different beast. Shift speed has been almost halved. And every shift comes with assertiveness. It is going into the next gear, it's not slushing at all. And this reduces overall quarter mile times, 100 to 200 times, which we're yet to test with the latest gearbox development. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Now, a lot of people wonder why you would need 700 brake horsepower in a G80 M3. And it ain't all about using that power irresponsibly. It's about using it in responsible situations, like going up a slip road onto a motorway. You want to be able to be in the right speed at the right gear. Also, the downshift limiters have been increased as well, so you can actually shift down when you want, and the car allows you to do that. And I think that makes it so much more engaging on the road and on track. That's my 1 year review on my BMW G80 M3. Yes, it's the rear wheel drive version, and it's got all these modifications, which I'll leave a link to down below. And any other question you guys have for me, drop us an email, give us a call, or leave a comment below.